This is KGW News at 11.
First at 11, gun violence in Portland. The Rose City has seen an unusually high number of shootings this year, and the community is calling for an end to the violence. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Laurel Porter. As community members call for action, they're also remembering a teenage boy who was gunned down near Northeast Portland Park. As KGW's Mike Benner reports, that killing remains unsolved.
Friday afternoon at Peninsula Park, a crowd of dozens gathers to remember Jalen Scott.
Same time, it's good to see all the support and people and his friends who are showing him love and showing that they care about him.
Cash Carter's 16-year-old boy was shot and killed in late August near Gateway Discovery Park in Northeast Portland. A total of 4 young people were shot that night. Jalen was the only one to lose his life.
He was a sweet kid. He was really, really sweet. He loved basketball. He was really funny, really hilarious, you know. He was just a really genuine, caring, sweet boy. He didn't deserve to die.
Ariana Moorhead organized Friday's gathering. It was as much about Jalen as it was about bringing awareness to the violence in Portland.
Crime rates have gone up in Portland specifically.
She's on to something there. So far this year, there have been more than 590 shootings. That averages out to more than 60 shootings a month. Far too many, if you ask Jalen's father.
It just hurts, period, just knowing about, he's one of many that's been lost recently with everything going on.
Jalen would have turned 17 next week. No parent should lose a child, let alone one who has so much life ahead of him.
This was still like a young boy, and we should take and pay more attention to these kind of cases.
And Jalen's case remains unsolved. Just about the only thing that'll bring Cash Carter peace is an arrest.
And that's the more important thing. Like, Jalen's gone, and we're going to always miss him. But it's like when a person's out there, we want to make sure that he can't harm anybody else. So, no other parent has to go through the same thing that we're going through.
Jalen Scott's father thinks that one of the reasons this case is unsolved is because of all the resources that are going to the nightly protests in Portland. But Portland Police Chief Chuck Lavelle assured the father that detectives are working this case. In the meantime, Crime Stoppers is offering a cash award of up to $2,500 for information that leads to an arrest. I'm Mike Benner for KGW News.
Some developing and tragic news tonight. Deputies in Washington County are at a home in Aloha after a report that a 3-year-old boy shot himself in the head with a handgun. Details about what happened are limited right now. We're told the boy was sent to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. We'll update you as we learn more. Just heart-wrenching. Turning now to the pandemic and some concerning news for Oregon. The state just recorded its first back-to-back days of 400 or more new infections. 425 new cases were added today. That's down from 484 of the state's one-day record high set yesterday, but the numbers are still big and the trends don't look particularly good. Pat Doris reports.
The experts have worried for months that the fall would bring an increase in COVID-19 cases. And unfortunately, it's starting to look more and more like they are correct. 484 new cases of the coronavirus in Oregon in one day. That is an attention grabber.
I think, that top line certainly got my attention late yesterday afternoon.
Dr. Jennifer Vines is the top public health officer in Multnomah County. She said it's too soon to know whether that's a disturbing trend.
It's usually after at least 2 to 3 weeks, if not 4 weeks of data, that we're able to find patterns and do some explaining in hindsight of what has happened.
So I hear you saying it is something to pay attention to, but it's not the whole story.
Yeah, it could be, again, day to day. This could be, this could be sort of an outlier week for whatever reason, or it could be the beginning of a new trend. It's going to take time to know.
We've all been living with the COVID-19 virus for more than 7 months here in Oregon. Yes, there is more testing available than back in the early days. Even a month after we had our first case, there were only 6,700 people tested in 1 week. Now, if you look at the second column from the left, you'll see anywhere from 2,200 to 5,700 get tested each day. But the virus is spreading, and this week the numbers are worse than they've been in a long time. The state reports 6.3% of the people tested for the week ending October 4th came back positive. Look at the bottom line of these lists, and you'll see you have to go way back to the spring to find another week where the positive rate is that high. The reason? Too many people gathering too close together. But also, the virus is now so widespread, a lot of cases do not have a known cause. It has made big gains in Multnomah County.
Multnomah County, my county, was on the high side with, I think, 81 yesterday. And, we reported to our Board of Commissioners earlier this week that as of end of September, we had seen about a 40% increase in cases over the course of that month.
The county is not anywhere near the 10 cases per 100,000 needed to open schools to in-person learning.
And kind of our unfortunate bottom line is that we are not close to the school reopening metrics, and we're also not close to the phase 2 metrics.
It would be nice to think that these big numbers and that record day just came about because there's more testing. But actually, there's about the same amount of testing happening now as there was in late June and a lot of July, and those positive rates were lower. The virus is on the move. Think about that the next time you're inside and close enough to someone else to catch it. In Northeast Portland, Pat Doris, KGW News.
Umatilla County is back on the governor's watch list after seeing an uptick in cases. Governor Brown says it's the first time a county has been added back. Umatilla will stay on the list for a minimum of 3 weeks and until sporadic case rates there drop below certain thresholds. Benton, Clatsop, and Malheur counties are the only other counties also on the watch list right now. 2 elementary schools in the Estacada School District are closed for deep cleaning after someone tested positive there for COVID. The case involves an adult at River Mill Elementary School. The district didn't say whether that person was an employee, but says they are home isolating. Most students in the district are doing online learning, except for a few dozen who are receiving limited in-person instruction a few hours a day. None of those students were in close contact with the person who tested positive. As a precaution, the district canceled in-person instruction for now at both River Mill and Clackamas River Elementary Schools because of staff crossover between buildings. Officials say from wildfires to COVID, the community has been strong through a lot of change.
We're a really resilient community, but it is a lot, especially for our students, and to not be able to support them in person and to hug them, it's hard. So, we hope to get back to some semblance of normal at some point.
On Monday, the district hopes to announce how long the 2 elementary schools will be closed. It's working with health officials to figure that out. In the meantime, the middle and high schools in the district are continuing limited in-person instruction as normal. People who live and work in Washington don't pay income tax. You probably already knew that. But what about all the people who live in Washington and are now working from home for an Oregon company? As Catherine Cook reports, they could be in for a big increase in their tax refund.
Since COVID-19 hit, a lot of people have been working from home. For some, like Penny Ekaruin, that means not having to cross the bridge from Washington to Oregon.
I mean, I definitely don't mind not having the 26-mile each-way commute.
And Penny's looking forward to the tax benefits she's expecting from this year. The Oregon Department of Revenue only taxes employees for income earned while in Oregon. That means money earned from a full day's work in Washington wouldn't apply. Penny's been working from her Vancouver home since March.
It's definitely a money saver. And right now, I think with the economy the way it is, that, we should take advantage of any situation that we can.
You might be thinking, wait, I thought income taxes were based off where your employer is, not where you are when you work. We found clarification in this Oregon rule. It says, physical presence is determined by the actual physical location of the employee performing the services and not by the location of the employer. Employees who work in Oregon and at an alternate work site located outside of Oregon may allocate their compensation under the provisions of this rule.
There's a ton of people looking for, advice with Oregon's tax being 9%. That's a lot of money. When we start talking 6-7 months of work from home.
RJ Solar is a tax attorney at Solar Whitman. He's been fielding tons of questions from people in Penny's boat who've worked some months in Oregon and some months in Washington. He says while everyone's situation is different, the most important thing you can do is document what days you worked and where.
You're not really avoiding taxes, you're just not having to pay what you didn't do in Oregon.
To figure out what wages are taxable by Oregon, the state's income tax guide suggests taking the number of days you actually worked in Oregon divided by the number of days you worked anywhere multiplied by your total wages.
I talked to somebody actually on this topic earlier this week, and she had determined that it was almost a $300 a month savings. It can add up and can be real money for people that may just never have heard of it.
Penny's thankful she knows.
Out of all bad comes some good, and so we just have to try to reach for the good in it and carry on.
Catherine Cook, KGW News.